All right. I think it's so today we're going to talk a little bit about author's purpose. And let me see if I can share my screen for you. So you should be able to see the screen that says author's purpose, and it's got like my little Bitmoji sitting on a mushroom. If you can't see that, let me know. My chat box and put it over here so I can communicate. So I Googled my symptoms this morning. It turns out I just need more coffee. You guys know that I like my coffee facts. So I've got a coffee fact for you or a question. Arabica coffee varieties such as Java and Mocha are named after what? Is it A, plantations where they're grown, B, coffee grower who developed that variety, C, their predominant flavorings, or D, their ports of origin? Okay, give me an answer if you think you know it. You can type that in the chat box. I see somebody's already got it right. The answer was D, the ports of origin. These beans are named after their ports of origin. Java is actually the name of an island off of the southeast of Asia, and Mocha is from Mocha, Yemen. Interesting fact for you today. All right, so let's talk about author's purpose. Every author has an intent or purpose in writing something. So, just a sec, I got something going on here. Okay. So they have a purpose in their writing. It may be to entertain you. Writers write interesting things. Things happen in books that may or may not happen in real life. If you look at, there's all kinds of fantastical creatures in books. For example, the Twilight Saga. They have vampires and werewolves and extraordinary things. They have, different powers and strength and speed and things like that. Maybe you're not a Twilight fan. That's okay. Maybe you like Lord of the Rings type of books or fantasy books. If you look in the Tolkien books, the Lord of the Ring books, they have wizards and elves and orcs, dwarves and dragons, things like that. Very extraordinary things that we don't have in real life. So a lot of the reason why writers write is to entertain you, is for entertainment value. One of my brother's favorite types of books to read growing up were the Louis L'Amour books. These are Westerns. I don't know if you have ever read a Western book. I do like them occasionally. The good thing about Western books is they're always larger than life. Like the characters are always, they do shootouts and they may be left for dead and then they come back to life. There are all kinds of entertainment authors. I loved it personally to read for entertainment. And the thing about entertainment writing is that the authors use descriptive words that help you paint a picture of things in your head. And our imagination is usually better than any kind of, CG or anything we could watch on TV. A lot of times I read a book and then they make a movie and then I'm kind of disappointed in the movie because my imagination is so much better than what they, put in the movie. So another reason for writing may be to inform you. Authors may write to talk about a real world topic. They write, they usually give a lot of details. Hold on, I got somebody trying to get in. A lot of different details just to give you information. Another third reason writers may write is to explain things. It may be a self-help book or a cookbook. This book here, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I've actually had to read this several times. In college, if you take any type of business or communication classes, a lot of times they want you to read this book. And it is actually a good book. It teaches you how to be a highly effective employee, team member, things like that. That is considered a self-help book. Cookbooks would also be considered self-help or instructional. It's teaching you how to do something. Another reason writers may write is to describe things. These often include short stories. In short stories, they often try to describe things better than a picture. So when you're reading, you need to ask yourself, does the author describe the 5 senses? Hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. There are a lot of adjectives in this type of writing. Okay. It may be an essay about the merits of homeschooling or the merits of in-person school. It may be political essays or stories to try to get you to vote for a particular candidate. It might be to persuade you to have the environment, to save the environment or save water. There's all types of different writings. It may be to persuade you to try a new product. Ask yourself, is the author trying to get me to believe in something or take a specific action? Is there any questions so far? I have somebody trying to get in the class, but I guess they left. Okay, so let's talk about point of view a little bit. Now that we know why authors write, we must ask ourselves, what is his or her point? What's the point? What do they want me to know? In literature, point of view is who is telling the story. It allows the reader to see the thoughts and feelings of characters. So let's talk about first person. In first person, the narrator is telling the story. So the person who is speaking is telling the story. And they are one of the characters in the story. So they're talking about themselves and other people in the story. Some of the signal words for first person is, of course, I, me, we, or us. Then there's third person. The narrator is not a character in the story in third person, okay? The narrator might reveal the thoughts and feelings of only one character or all the characters. Some signal words for the third person is he, she, him, they, it's, hers, theirs, them. It's never I or we. It's always he, she, him, they type of talking. In other types of text, such as informative, persuasive, scientific, and historical texts, the author's point of view is his or her attitude towards the subject. A writer may choose not to state his or her point of view, but the language he or she uses will usually reveal their point of view. So they may not outright say it, but their tone, language, things like that will let you know their point of view. First, we have to determine a writer's purpose, okay? Second, we need to identify the tone of writing. Is it serious? Is it humorous, scary, sympathetic, angry? What is the tone of the writing? Third, we need to look at the style of writing. We need to figure out, is it descriptive? Is it narrative, a spoken or written account? Is it expository, meant to explain or describe something? Is it persuasive or is it instructive? Is it giving you instructions or is it trying to persuade you of something? These are the things that we are trying to pay attention to understand what the author's point is and what their point of view is. Then we want to identify the main idea. The main idea is what the passage or text is mostly talking about. The main idea is supported by details. It's important to know the main idea because it helps you to understand the reading and sort through the details that are not important for understanding. I'll give you a good example. My daughter is 11 years old. She is a girly girl. She comes home from school and she always has a story to tell me about something that happened at school, whether it be with a teacher or another student, a friend. She always has a story to tell me. And I have to work really hard to figure out what the main idea is that she's trying to tell me, because she gives me all these useless other facts and details because she's very descriptive. And sometimes I have to stop and say, okay, what is the point? What are you trying to tell me? It's the same thing in writing. We do this every day, all day, whether it be reading a book for literature reasons, like just leisurely, it's just a book that we're interested in, whether it's a homework assignment, whether it is a letter you get in the mail. We do this every time we read. We're trying to figure out what the main idea of that writing is. Then we have primary and secondary sources. Let's talk about this for a minute. Primary sources, that's a piece of evidence that could be, it's created by someone at the time of an event. For example, letters, diaries, photographs, government records, autobiographies, artifacts, speeches, things like that. Whereas secondary is information created by someone who was not present at the event. It may have been afterwards or secondhand. Okay, so they're getting information secondhand. So some examples of that are newspapers, textbooks, biographies, documentaries, photographs, can be non-original photographs, encyclopedias, dictionaries, things like that. So here's a good example. Okay, let's think about this. There's a tornado. Sarah's house is destroyed in the tornado. She wrote out the storm in her bathroom. The news crew comes to interview her after the tornado. Sarah's interview would be a primary source. Then, if somebody at the newspaper watches Sarah's interview and then includes her information in their newspaper article, the newspaper article would be a secondary source because they got the information from another source, not straight from Sarah. Okay, Sarah gave her information straight to the television news interview. The newspaper journalist got her story from the television news. Okay, so theirs would be secondary. Another example would be Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He gave his I Have a Dream speech. That speech, if you were there listening to it live, that is a primary source. Okay, but a story about his speech or when he gave his speech, that would be a secondary source. Okay, so if you were in person listening to the speech, that's a primary source. If you are reading a story about the speech, which today that's all we have because he's passed and gone, that was an event that's already happened. So anything we get now about Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech is going to be a secondary source. Okay, I hope that makes some sense. Okay, do we have any questions? This has been a short lesson today. I try to kind of do a short lesson in the middle of the class during the session because you do need time to catch up on things. I realize that sometimes we can't get all of our work done. It's been a little different this time around simply because we've had some recorded sessions instead of our live Zoom sessions. So if you have any questions about the last couple of classes that you'd like to ask about, now's the chance to do that. Just a second if you want to talk on your mic, you can, or if you want to type something in the chat box, you can. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. In the meantime, I just want to make sure that you're all going to Common Lit and finishing up those Common Lit assignments. They're fairly short. So if you haven't done that, I'd like you to take some of this time because we'll have some extra time today because this was a short class. Any assignments up until now that you haven't done, just kind of go back over and make sure you're getting those in. We want to stay as caught up as possible so we don't get behind. So yeah, doesn't look like anybody has any questions so far. So today's assignments, let me see here. Bring up our assignments real quick. Okay, so today is January the 31st. We are going to have the true story of the Three Little Pigs is a video I would like you to watch. It's really cute and not very long. And then we're going to do an assignment on determining author's point of view in social studies. And then we're going to have an assignment on primary and secondary sources. And then you have a Common Lit assignment. If you can get to that one today, that'd be great. If not, I'd like you to try to do these 4 before that and do that over the next hour or so. And we will meet back here at 11 o'clock to go over assignments and finish up this class day. Go ahead and type your name in the chat box to sign out. And then once you do that, you'll be free to go and work on your assignments. Thank you. I'll see you here at 11. Bye-bye.